everyone, welcome back. Alright, I need to chill. Cut. Beep. Welcome back to my channel, everyone. No. Welcome back to my channel. I need to figure out what an intro is gonna be, so my bad. Let's start that again. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you enjoyed the last video. As you can see by today's title, I'm going to talk about toxic relationships, recognizing the signs or the red flags, and kind of knowing when to leave. Before we get into today's video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Share with a friend's friend, a friend's family's friend, a cousin, an auntie, an uncle, daughter, mom, dad, favorite brother, favorite sister. Share with everyone and come join the family. Subscribe. It's all good vibes over here. So let's get into today's video. Talking about toxic relationships, I've experienced a fair few, but I think many people kind of tend to experience that as well. They're not fun. They're not supposed to be fun. That's why the word toxic is there in the first place. And I mean, just from like having conversations with friends and things and kind of my own personal experiences, I know how difficult it can be to be in a toxic relationship or be in a relationship that isn't healthy for you and basically drains you emotionally, mentally, and sometimes physically too. You know, when I talk to my friends a lot, you get to see what different people are going through and kind of, I guess, sometimes makes you think about your own situation that you've been through, you know, thinking about certain things and highlighting them as signs and knowing that they were signs, but then maybe you overlooked them for whatever reason. Also in kind of like a good way, or I guess a positive way, knowing that it's having that sense of relief, especially if you're out of that relationship, knowing that the worst is behind you type of thing. So yeah, I kind of want to start off with just sharing a bit about my own personal experience. The whole reason why I'm doing this video is because I have lived through that. A few years ago, I've come to now understand that I was in what would be described as an emotionally abusive and mentally abusive relationship as well. It took me a long time to get to this point to finally see the relationship for what it was, even though my intuition and, you know, certain things like my feeling and the vibe that I was getting during that relationship was telling me that actually, you know what, this isn't a healthy relationship. This isn't something that long term is going to be good for you. It's killing you now, and even now in the situation is killing you. And every day there were more bad times of the work. It took me a while to kind of realize that the relationship was quite emotionally abusive. This was a relationship that was a huge deal to me in many ways, but you know, toxic relationships tend to start off quite positive in the sense that you have a lot of fun to start off with. The honeymoon phase is so intense and it feels so good. And the little doubts or the little red flags that you see during that time, it means nothing, because it's basically like you and this person in this bubble that you've created for yourself, and everything is just the two of you, you know, like nothing else kind of matters. Within a few months, I started to notice within myself that I was changing, like there was something not quite right inside of me. And I think one of the biggest things that made me realize that was the fact that I felt like I literally just stepped into this other person's world, and everything that I did, everything that I wanted to do, every person that I was around was this person's world. So when it came to friends, hanging out with friends, you know, I wasn't really seeing my friends as much anymore. It was all about this person. Family, again, I wasn't really seeing my family. I was always around this person's family. You know, even all the way down to work. I would go to work with this person and just, you know, sit in the car and wait while the person was done working. And I mean, the person was self-employed. So it's like, when you start to notice that everything that you're doing, you're losing piece of you, every single thing that you do. And it's not a bad thing to want to spend time with the person that you're with, but it becomes unhealthy when you literally do a 360, like your whole life almost changes in a bizarre way. You know, like I said, like everything that I was doing, it was like I literally felt like I stepped out of my life and stepped into the person's life, and I was just an accessory. I was just, there to kind of like support the person and make their life better, and completely just neglecting myself. It starts to become unhealthy when the person is also very happy to just take that. So like I said, within a few months, I started to notice that something isn't right. And I actually expressed that. The minute I expressed that, it was as if like, oh, well, okay, so you don't want to hang out with me then, or oh, well, you don't like my family then, or oh, well, it all turned negative. And that's another thing as well that you need to realize as a red flag. Now, this isn't a make or break red flag, because again, I think sometimes people get into relationships and they have a lot to learn. Sometimes it works great where two can come together and they learn together, but sometimes, most cases, you tend to have to do the working out and learning on your own before you come together as two whole individuals. If you express how you feel to someone, especially when you take the time to sit down and talk to them about it, which is what I did, and they turn it into a negative. If you can't communicate your feelings to someone that you're supposed to be with, a partner, then that is, especially if they're twisted as well, that is something to be very, very scared of, because that's almost going into the territory of gaslighting. And a lot of people have expressed and talk about gaslighting in their relationships. That is real. That is something that you don't know is happening, especially if you're in deep. It's something that it becomes so normal to you that, you don't see it. Even if your friends try to explain it to you, or the friends try to point out to you, you don't see it until, like in my situation, months after the relationship, years after the relationship. Now it's just like a lot of things were making sense. So my situation, it was very emotionally abusive. Like I said, it was mentally abusive. I got to the point where, we were arguing all the time, and I couldn't express any opinions. I couldn't express anything that wasn't in line with what the person agreed with. It was almost like I either had to agree or, keep my mouth shut to kind of avoid conflict, because anything that I said would end up in conflict. Anything that I expressed would end up in conflict. Anything that I wanted to show that was part of me in terms of my feelings or my emotions were always seen as, you're being too much, you're being too emotional, you're being too dramatic, you're being too this, you're being too that. And eventually that kind of stuff wears you down, because that's at the very basic level, the person completely invalidating who you are and how you feel. This is a side note. If you don't agree with someone in terms of their views or their opinions or how they feel, maybe there's been a conflict or a disagreement between the two of you, you still have to validate them, because their feelings is true to them. They are the ones feeling it. So for the partner, again, to not validate how you're feeling, but instead turn it around and make you feel as if you're too emotional, you're too dramatic, you're too this, you're always the one wanting to cause arguments. But actually, I'm trying to tell you how you're making me feel, and you're just not listening. So it's very important to kind of realize the red flags from a very, very early point in your relationships, and do something about it. Usually you can do something about it through communicating, but again, you have to have someone who can communicate with you and really take you telling them the truth, because the truth hurts sometimes. If I love you and you love me, but you've done something to upset me, or you've done something to hurt me, you should be able to listen to what I'm saying and try to improve on that, and vice versa. Eventually I just stopped talking, and that was another thing. I was going silent a lot, and I was always giving the silent treatment, and the person would get very frustrated, like, oh, there you go, silent treatment again. But actually, I'm going silent because my voice isn't being heard. I'm going silent because I do not want to say anything that's going to hurt you or make the situation worse. And again, this was something that I told the person. But again, if you're with someone who is toxic, they're not gonna hear or see you. They're gonna try and twist and manipulate and mold anything that you say into something that isn't what you said. I guess a few things that I wanna highlight in terms of being able to recognize the signs is to watch and listen to what your partner says to you. 9 times out of 10, whatever is on someone's heart will always make its way out the mouth or the behavior. Sometimes people say certain things and they're like, oh, I was just joking, or oh, I didn't mean that. But when you look at the pattern before them maybe saying that specific thing, maybe it's bad, they've said that specific thing more than once, but they keep brushing it off every time they say it. That's not something that you should overlook. Always watch and listen to what your partner's saying to you. Watch or listen to how they say it. Listen to the words that they choose to use. If your partner tends to kind of put you down, a lot. This is something that a lot of people tend to experience, and it's something that a lot of people find difficult to take themselves out of. Now when I look back, I ask myself, why did I stay for that long? Why didn't I find that strong, courageous, brave person inside of me that I knew was there and be like, this isn't working, we're not right for each other. And I tried, don't get me wrong, I tried, especially because at one point we were living together. Things weren't working out, we were arguing all the time. It was a very toxic environment, like toxic, completely toxic. I left the house that we're living in, and I decided that I didn't want to go back to the house because it wasn't right for us, it wasn't right for our relationship, and so I was happy to go somewhere else while we fixed our relationship. But I guess one thing that toxic people like is to be in control, and with me not going back to the house, that was that person losing control over me. And it takes someone who is very in tune with how people maneuver and understands how people maneuver for you to be able to point that kind of stuff out. Like I said, a lot of people are in toxic relationships and don't even realize, one, that they're in one, and two, find it very hard to leave. And I guess talking about why people stay, sometimes people feel like, you know, they're not good enough, they're not gonna find anything better the devil that you know, which I guess in my case, the reason why I stayed was partly because I'm the type of person that doesn't like to quit. I don't like giving up. And so in my mind, when you're in a relationship and you're going through tough times, it's part of the package, it's part of the deal. You just have to do whatever you can to work on whatever it is that you need to work on or to make the relationship go the long road. I compromised a lot for that relationship, all the way down to my education. It takes two to tango, everyone knows that. It takes two to make anything work, but it also takes two willing people. If one person's putting in 80% and the other person's only putting in 20%, it's not gonna work. A relationship isn't just one-sided, it's a two-person thing. And so two people have to be willing and equally ready to kind of participate to make the relationship work. Some of the other things that people might find or might feel that they can't, you know, leave is that, you know, I don't want to break that bond. You feel like things might change, things will get better, and those are all the things that I went through as well. I genuinely felt like things would get better when we had a week of good days or a few good days. I would want that to last, but then equally inside of me, I knew that wasn't gonna last. And that's so sad to know that I felt that coming. It was always like you know that, okay, there's a high, but the high isn't gonna last. You know that you're gonna be downstairs crying in a cold room by yourself, sleeping on an airbed. You know that's gonna come because there's something, you're gonna say something that's gonna cause an argument, because everything that you say causes an argument because you're the one who starts the argument, you know? If you are in a relationship that's toxic, please, 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 let me just say this to you. If you don't look after yourself, if you don't pour some of that love into you and who you are first, you can't sustain that relationship. You will keep getting broken down, you will keep losing yourself, and losing yourself is such a scary thing to happen, because if you make your whole life about one person and that person goes, which in a toxic relationship is probably going to happen, you're left with nothing. You're gonna left feeling empty, and that's a scary place to be. Which was where I was, and I've had to slowly rebuild myself. And again, looking back now, I mean, I'm happy for the lessons because I don't regret anything, but at the same time, I wish that I had gotten out sooner. But knowing what I've learned now, I know what is healthy and what isn't healthy, and that situation definitely wasn't healthy at all. Definitely wasn't healthy. I mean, it took me a while for me to realize that all the things that I was being blamed for wasn't my fault. It was so hard to let that go. Really, really was. I had that ingrained in my mind. And to think that the person actually said that to me. No one should ever be left carrying the mistakes of someone else. It's not fair, because that is a huge emotional load to have to carry. So if you're wondering when to leave a toxic relationship, please let me just say this. Think about what you were before you got into that relationship. Think about what you're currently in that relationship, what you're like. If you're not expressing certain opinions or you're not expressing how you're feeling, How you feel around that person too is so important. Think about that. If your diet changes completely, I put on a lot of weight. I mean, I'm quite a slim build anyway, but I put on so much weight, my boobs went to D's. I'm usually like I think a B or something. So if your diet changes, that's another thing. Try and see that as a red light, because people either lose a lot of weight or gain a lot of weight. If you order takeout all the time, or you're don't have a lot of energy, you're not motivated to cook and cook healthy, like just keep an eye on kind of things like that. If you feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells, again, that's another thing. Links in with the gaslighting, because you're not able to express your opinions. If you do say how you feel, if you do voice your opinion, then it's, you know, twisted, and it's you're being emotional, you're being this, you're being that. Eventually, not only does that wear you down, but it also tells you that it's wrong for you to express your feelings, or it's wrong for you to feel the way that you feel, and that's fundamentally wrong. Emotions and feelings are there as data in a way to kind of tell us, okay, something needs to get looked at, or something needs to change, or, you know, it's almost like, hey, I'm here, please pay attention. And if someone is telling you not to use that data to be able to improve on who you are as a person, that's wrong. That is wrong. Do not let anyone tell you or make you feel that your feelings and your emotions and your opinions and you know what you think is wrong. It's not. That is incorrect, and I'm here to tell you that stay away from them. Seriously, because it's a slippery slope. Once you start listening to them, it's very hard to come back from. And then the final thing I'd like to say is in terms of highlighting a red flag or seen as a red flag, is if you're making all the compromises, if you're the only one that's making all the changes to make sure the relationship is running smooth, or the one that's losing out all the opportunities or changing certain things, make sure that everything is running smoothly for the relationship, that's wrong. Relationship, like I said before, takes two. That means that two people have to equally work at it. Two people have to equally compromise. It's two people with a common goal who love each other. And sometimes you can love each other but also dislike each other. Like, you know, it happens like with siblings. You know you love your siblings, or you know you love your parents, but there are times that you don't like them. You don't like certain things that they do. It's the same thing in a romantic relationship. I can love you, but I can also dislike some of the things that you do. But if I tell you that I dislike some of the things you do, you're supposed to take that on board and work on that, and vice versa. You're supposed to grow together as a healthy two. I hope you've enjoyed this video and kind of hearing about my personal experience in terms of toxic relationships. And I've kind of talked about, you know, some of the signs that you can see, knowing when to leave. Why people sometimes find it hard to leave as well. I hope that you take something from this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Until the next video, your girl is out. Mwah. Peace.